are key in air traffic control. And as you see by the illustration, if you've got one thing in mind, the controller has another thing in mind, there's liable to be, to be some unpleasant situation going on. The FAA recently, for the last 5 years, has been keeping track of the top 5 problems in the agency. The top 5 risks, and one of them has been 2 years running now, wrong surface landing. You all probably heard Harrison Ford landed on the taxi instead of a runway. It happened here with commercial aircraft. Continental landing at Cavaness a few years ago. It's happened with C5 in the Midwest landing at a company-owned airport as opposed to the air base that we're supposed to go to. So communication is definitely key. So as a pilot or as a controller, when you're calling me for service, I want to know 3 things right away. Who are you? Where are you? And what can I do to help you? Okay? And where are you includes your position and your altitude. Now, if your report is accurate enough, I can tell you radar contact right away. Most of the time I'm going to know who you are unless the position report is really bad. But if you give me your distance and cardinal direction from something that I know, then I can establish radar contact right then. We can, I'll give you a code and go on. I could even start issuing you instructions at that point, issuing traffic, etc. So the accuracy of your position report is key. Okay, we're going to look at a little short video here. This is by an instructor pilot about communication. And if I selected the right one, whoops, hey. Get up there. If I selected the right one, it's going to involve a runway incursion.
As pilots, we know we're responsible for the safety of passengers we have on board, but we're also responsible for the safety of those we encounter on runways and taxiways. Hi, I'm Mark Ward, a fellow general aviation pilot and also a flight instructor. We're here at College Park Airport, Maryland, the oldest continually operated airport in the world. As a general aviation pilot, I'm responsible for almost 80% of all runway incursions caused by pilot deviation. That amounts to close to 700 incursions per year. You may be thinking, that could never happen to me, but unfortunately, it does happen. When we look at the data, we see that one of the areas we need to improve on the most is communication. When it comes to fixing communication errors, there are a few easy practices we can use. First, remember, ATC is there for you. If you are ever uncertain, don't hesitate to ask ATC to clarify an instruction or a clearance. Next, once you receive taxi instructions, write them down or highlight them on airport diagrams in your electronic flight bag. Also, reading them out loud to yourself helps commit it to memory. This will keep you from forgetting or misinterpreting the instructions. Lastly, listen to the taxi instructions carefully to avoid taking a clearance or instruction intended for someone else. Keep the task at hand. Don't engage in unnecessary conversations. Communication with ATC is key, so let them know if you anticipate a delay or unable to comply with any instructions. Runway incursions caused by the simplest mistake can have dangerous consequences, and we, as pilots, need to do everything in our power to prevent them.
November 4321 Bravo, Alphabet Ground, runway 16 right, taxi via Charlie, hold short of runway 16 left.
November 4321 Bravo, runway 16 right, taxi via Charlie and hold short of runway 16 left.
November 4321 Bravo, stop, stop. You are cleared across runway 16 left.
kind of scary. Okay, pilots. These are just a couple of lists that we got, and this was feedback that was gathered by polling FAST team representatives. Any of you all familiar with the FAST team? Yeah, FAST, you are very good.
Yeah.
FAST team is a group that we have that is a well, what would you call them? They're not.
They kind of promote safety and stuff.
Right, exactly. They put out information, put on seminars. They have some online courses that you can take. They have a program where if you complete certain segments of the course, then that's the same as your flight exam. You can forego the flight exam, periodically. If you ever should find yourself in a situation like this pilot here, and it goes to FSDO, flight standards, and they see that you're a participant in the FAST program, then they're going to look at it a little bit differently. The whole program is geared towards safety and geared toward training so that we can prevent general aviation accidents. Okay, so things that pilots wish controllers knew. That we can't write as fast as you speak. They're multitasking and may not copy everything you need them to. So this is, for controllers, feedback that we got from y'all. Combining several difficult clearance instructions together increases the probability of misunderstanding, especially when issued out of order. And I try to instruct that, clearance has a certain rhythm, a certain cadence to it, a certain order that you're expecting to hear the instructions. And if they're given out of that order, it takes just that little extra mind work to get them right. So, if you give turn prior to altitude, altitude prior to turn, it's going to make a difference. Aircraft performance characteristics. Yeah, I don't know how many times I've heard, been plugged in with a trainee and they've told an aircraft to do something, and it's like, the best aircraft I ever worked was a 727 because it could do anything except climb real good. But yeah, but I mean, if he was on arrival, I could put him anywhere. But because he could speed up instantly, slow down instantly, descend real well, turn real well, descend and turn and slow. But so many of these instructions that trainees give, it's like, he can't do that. He can't do that. He's not going to do that the way you think he's going to do that. That they understand a controller's job is stressful. Theirs is too. Absolutely. I think the suicide rate among commercial pilots is higher than controllers. Flight deck automation. That changing a clearance, runway, or approach is not as simple and quick in aircraft with flight management systems. It used to be, with hand flying, response was much quicker. And now it's a lot slower because pilots are relying on the FMS. Landing and runway exit speeds and procedures that sometimes they just can't do what you expect or even what they expected. Can you make taxiway Charlie? Sure. And then you get on the ground and for one reason or another you're not slowing down as much. Things that controllers wish pilots knew. That it is required of us to get a proper and accurate readback, including call sign. We got to have that call sign. Not to make assumptions. If you have any doubts about what we need you to do, please ask. If you're not sure, ask us. That it would really help if before you get to our airport, you take a look at the airport diagram. If we ask you to exit the runway taxiway Bravo 3, it's helpful if you already have an idea which one Bravo 3 is. That when you don't hear anything on the frequency, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not doing anything. Corpus Christi is unique in that we have so many frequencies, and we'll look at a map of it in a minute, that are being worked by the same controller. That you're hearing the controller, but you're not hearing the other aircraft that are talking. Navy is using channelized frequencies. Sometimes they're on the VHF, sometimes they're on the UHF. And so if you're not getting a response, and it's like, oh, that's probably why.
Yeah.
The other thing is there's a lot of coordination that goes on between facilities. We're on the telephone, you know, the hotline, coordinating all kinds of things in relation to aircraft that are entering and leaving our airspace. With Houston Center, with Navy Kingsville. The real nightmare is Navy Corpus Tower, because right now, in this great modern age of electronic communication, they do not see what we see as far as the data identification for the aircraft. So every aircraft that we have going into Navy requires at least one phone call, sometimes 3 phone calls, because we don't have that interlink. We've been trying to get it. Navy has been pushing back for some reason. The ownership of their own system is very important to them, and you know, even though it's the same exact system. It's like having an iPhone and an iPhone, but you won't let them hook up. You know, you won't do the FaceTime. So, if you don't hear anything, we're probably still doing something. Okay, there's our airport diagram. This was an interlink, but for some reason it's not working, so I'm just going to skip right over it. We're sitting right here. That's the control tower. So when we go upstairs, you can kind of orient yourself. We will be, as you reach the top of the stairs and make that turn, you'll be looking due north. Okay, so you'll be looking right at the terminal. Now, an interesting thing about Corpus Christi is that we have some blind spots. As tall and as beautiful as this tower is, there's still blind spots on the field. Okay, those are notated here in green. The area, because here's the control tower, the area that is kind of shadowed by the fire department right there in the middle of the field, we can't see that little section of Taxiway Lima very well. We can see a little bit, but we can't see it very well. We can't see this section of Taxiway Echo when you're behind that firehouse. And you can't see us. So if you can't see us, we can't see you. You know, it's like the side mirrors on the semis on the freeway. If you can't see us, we can't see you. So this whole green area, the whole ramp up here, is blind to us. Now, as far as radio blind spots, we don't have any. We fixed those about three and a half years ago. So there should be no radio dead spots on our field. Legend for this map, this is the runway safety area. All this area that's in yellow. If you're ever taxiing out to a runway and you see vehicles in there, listen for them to be getting out of the way, clearing the runway safety area before you take off, even if you're given a clearance. If you don't hear those vehicles being called away, then, you know, question the tower. Just, you know, something like, hey, am I all right with these trucks out here, or are these trucks all right, or something, you know, something to that effect. And it could help us from ending up with a whole lot of paperwork to do. This particular airport does not allow airport operations with aircraft in the runway safety area. Some airports do. There's no law against it. This is just an airport rule, okay? Okay, getting on to our airspace here. This is the top half of our airspace. This is what's referred to as Corpus approach, Corpus Christi approach control. Now you can see the frequencies that are listed. My mouse is dying, I think. The frequencies that are listed in this box sometimes are all being used by, or being worked by the same controller. So, you know, you've got 12 frequencies right there. When we do split it off, these are the chunks of airspace that individuals would work. The north radar controllers normally combine with south radar, so everywhere from, you know, once you leave Valley Approach all the way to the airport, you should be on one frequency, all the way up to Beeville. all the way up to Rockport on the other side. And when we get into the TRACON or into the training area, I'll pull up a map and you can see the shoreline and the area. This is valley approach control. Okay, and here, although it's almost always worked combined before holidays, you'll see them split off. We'll split east and west, off from north, depending on who's busiest. This, of course, is Harlingen Airport in the middle. This is Brownsville, and this is McAllen over here. Just kind of give you, this area right here is bounded by Kingsville Naval Air Station, and everything above us, everything above 15,000 feet is Houston Center. Okay, actively listen. And this is a lesson that we give to our controllers at least once a year as a refresher to actively listen, because it's so easy to assume and it's so easy to miss readbacks. There was an instance 3 days ago in Dallas approach. We had a citation and a 737 Southwest, 300 feet apart, nose to nose, and 0.6 of a mile. And it was because one pilot was issuing an altitude, he read back an incorrect altitude, and it wasn't caught on the readback. So we're responsible for that. You know, if you give me back information other than what I gave you, it's on me to catch it and correct it. Okay. So ATC clearance, we transmit, pilot listens, pilot reads back, and pilot read back, he transmits, we listen, and in the hear back, we either acknowledge it or correct it. One of the two. Okay. Some links here that are on the pieces of paper that I handed out. The first one is the link to the WINGS program that we talked about, the FAAST, the Fast Team WINGS. When you go to that website, it'll walk you right through, you know, how to sign up and everything else. This computer's a little bit slow, but if we go right down here, this is what I was talking about. The completion of any phase of WINGS satisfies the requirement for a flight review. So not only will you complete a review of the most common weak areas that have led others to the accident site, but you end up with a flight review as well. So it's, if you love flying, you're gonna love this, because they go in depth to, you know, a lot of things that pilots are not proficient at. This mouse is giving me fits. Errare humanum est is an article. It's a very good article. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'll just show you, you know, a couple of the things that the young lady covers that wrote this, Sabrina Woods. But you know, all these different things that we have a tendency to do, corners that we try to cut sometimes, and you know, it just talks about them and some of the possible results and how to avoid making those. It can happen to anyone. This was an instructor pilot, commercial pilot, that was, you know, flew into Atlanta Hartsfield and got onto a runway he didn't, you know, wasn't authorized to get onto. And he goes through and talks about, you know, even though he's a, you know, professional pilot and he, you know, took all the right steps, it's still, you know, he still got a little bit sideways and ended up in the wrong place. One more little video and then we'll, let's see if I can. And this is also an instructor pilot. He has a series of these, which are really pretty good.
We are just for fun. 1.7 away from the middle of the field. So if it's a 2-mile runway, that means we're about not doing math on final here. That means we're 0.7 away from the threshold. Cool. It's like the easiest math I could have done.
Yeah, I know. I blanked too, don't worry.
I think that it's one of my biggest purposes here on YouTube to show other pilots, and especially student pilots, that we're not all perfect. We don't all fly perfectly by the numbers every flight or follow every recommended practice to a T. We all have personality quirks and might even have fun while we're flying. I've made a number of mistakes over my flying career and will probably make many more. Any pilot who tells you they have not made any mistakes is either lying or their imperfect personality prevents them from seeing their mistakes. Either way, I wanted to share some of the most common mistakes that I've heard pilots and students make, so you know that it's okay not to be perfect. As long as we try our best, and you don't have to think about it while you're trying to sleep at night. Although I'm still having a hard time with the last part. Number 1, if it hasn't happened to you yet, it will. Just the other day, I had Unicom on standby, thinking that I had swapped it over already, and I transmitted on the tower frequency. If you're lucky like me, nobody heard you. Apologize real quick to the tower, and then get on with your day. No big deal, but it's also just as easy to do with en route controllers. Oops. Number 2, you're approaching an uncontrolled airfield with one runway at night. You orient your chart on your lap to match what you think you're about to see outside your window, and you announce your intentions to land on runway 14 all the way down until there's a big 3-2 illuminated by your landing light. It happens to the best of us, but hopefully you won't make the mistake twice, or especially somewhere with lots of traffic or with a control tower. Number 3. This is like 100 items in one, but some of them are more common than others. For instance, forgetting to set your directional gyro to match your whiskey compass, or setting your altimeter, something to do with carb heat, or what I hear most often, taking off with your mixture not at full rich, or getting up to 5,000 feet with a notch of flaps still in. In any case, not usually too dangerous as long as you're intimately familiar with your airplane's performance. This is why it's important to practice unusual procedures sometimes just to cover all your bases as a proficient pilot. Number 4. Usually this is one you won't notice until you're on the ground or before your next flight. You look at your fuel gauges and you might have tons of fuel, but it's all in one tank and it's not the one that you were flying on. At least in a Warrior, it's difficult to remember to change tanks every so often, especially at night when you might not have a great view of all the gauges. I set an alarm on my watch now. Number 5. Almost nothing makes you feel dumber than piling into the plane with your instructor and then realizing when you're all ready to go that you forgot to pull the chocks. This is something that used to plague me so bad, I would put a sticky note on my glare shield before every flight when I loaded up my bags. I've only heard of people forgetting tie-down ropes. I'm still waiting to see it happen in real life. I'll probably laugh. Number 6. The only thing that can make you feel even stupider than forgetting your chocks is getting back into your flight school and realizing that you forgot to write down any of the hops or tack times from before or after your flight. It's a pain for everybody, and you have to go back up to the plane. I think we can all collectively agree to call this the walk of shame. Lastly, I'll let you guys visualize this one with me. You're on one of your first solos, you're in the zone, ready to fire up and go. You yell clear prop, reach down for the key, which is still sitting on the counter inside the building. Often when you're the only one you know training to become a pilot, you can feel really alone. And sometimes you can even still feel that way, even if you're an aircraft owner. I think that it's always helpful to hear from other people that identify with you, and thus I gave you this video. The more people that you talk to in aviation, the more stories you'll hear, and I guarantee these mistakes will seem so incredibly minuscule compared to some of the stuff you'll hear. Anyway, do your best, try hard to fly safe, but remember, no pilot is perfect, no matter how much some of us try. And it's even okay to have a little bit of fun while you're learning to fly. Until next time, squawk VFR and have fun.
Yeah, you can find his whole series on on YouTube, and he really does a good job. There's another fellow. Okay, who's going with who?
I got this one.
This half, that half.
So you've watched all of those videos on YouTube already?
I haven't watched all of his, but I've only watched
Let me start by saying this. I consider myself to be a lot less judgmental than most pilots.
We're gonna watch the whole series.
Christi, Post Control, Cody.
Hey, Cody, it's Will. You ready?
Sure, yeah.
All right.
Hey, are you gonna do some up in the tower or some down here? What do you
Yes.
plan?
Yeah. Half and half.
All right, I'm gonna get somebody to help you out here.
Okay. Very good. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Split up with 2 more damage.
Ready to go watching the House of Flames? At the airport?
Yes.
Now when you come, he said, I think so.
I was wondering why they always asked me where I was. I go, I'm right here. I mean,
Yeah. You'll see from the tower.
I said, I noticed the first thing I'm thinking, oh, can't see signature.
Nope. Can't do it.
That's okay, luckily our plane will be parked on the other side, right, that you can see it. Love the plane.
I didn't know there were blind spots on the airfield.
I do have a question.
This airfield is not as bad as some I've worked at. Some of them it's really bad.
When did the change, it's always been, 1317? When did you go to 18?
I want to say when they extended the runways. We just did it coincidentally. It was slated because of the magnetic
Change,
drift.
change.
Right. Yeah.
I assume that, but I was like,
But
it's
when we
so
did it-
odd to me
when-
having
when we
always
did the
flown.
runway extension on runway 17,
Okay.
then we changed it.
we wait long enough.
It used to not be
it'll-
1735
It's,
Yeah.
No, it's always 1735.
It was 1735
Now
as
it's
opposed to
18.
1836.
That's 18.
And eventually it'll be
Yeah.
1836 when the poles swap.
Okay.
Every 22,000 years.
But cabinet, well, they don't do cabinet stuff. I assume it's the same.
It's what?
The cabinets, it still lines up though.
Yes. Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
one way we go.
That's
We
why
said,
they-
can you
that's
tell
why
that whoever lands at the Commonwealth,
why
we're
they-
never in the Navy because you would know right away it's a crappy Navy field. That why would you land?
Yeah.
it?
Well, that's.
But it looks all.
Continental did
Because
it.
the map
Yeah.
are changed
Yeah.
and
But
different.
we have had,
And, yeah, just-
we've had, at least once a year, somebody tries to land it. At least once a year, somebody tries to.
Still at Kingsville.
And we have to tell them, every aircraft that comes in, if they're making a visual approach, we tell them, 1 o'clock, 3 miles is Cabinets Field, Corpus Christi is 2 o'clock, 2 miles.
Same way with Camarillo, Point Goop.
Yeah.
Cannon and
my
Clovis.
approach plane like flipped up, not even looking at the right airplane.
There's a bunch of them.
Camarillo, they get.
All right, you wanna go up first or you wanna stay down?
I'll go up first.
All right, very good. So half of y'all,
We got half, but we got.
yeah,
This
this is Alaska Travis. This is the flying club based over
Hi, hi.
at our FBO. Signature.
All right.
Atlantic, I'm sorry, Atlantic, not Signature. Atlantic.
We're going with one and you're going with the other.
Okay, so y'all come with me.
I'm just following my
Everybody needs to use the restroom.
Over time,
What?
having to renumber.
Yeah.
Renumber runway.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
car.
This is our training room, our simulator room. We have positions behind this wall that are, connected with the headsets. They're looking at displays also. They act as the pilots, as the remote pilots when we're going through and running these simulations. In the TRACON, of course, with the lights off, this is what the map looks like. In this particular map, we are looking at the Corpus Christi airspace. Okay, if I go down here, now we're looking at the Valley airspace. And here's Brownsville, Harlingen, and McAllen. Up top, oops, turning the wrong dial. Up top, you can see this is Corpus Christi Airport. This is your 1836. This is 3113. Right over here is Navy, and they have the same runway configuration. They've got 1735 and 3113. Cabanus is down here. It's not depicted on this particular map. Let's see, which map do I want? Stuff in the way here. Okay. Bifocals. SID star composite terrain. That's the one I want right there. Okay, so now you can see the shoreline. This is Padre Island up here. This is Mustang Island. And then right in here is Port A. Here's the Corpus Christi Bay. And then the airport here. We can, of course, go through and expand it so you can get a little better look of the shoreline. Naval Air Station. We got Rockport. Where is Mustang? Let's see. Oh, here we are, way up here. That's Mustang Beach Airport. St. Joe's Island, the private airport over there. Robstown is right here. We had a pilot the other day take off in a TBM out of Robstown, made a left turn, climbed right up into United Express.
Coming down from Houston.
Coming down 1-3. The two of them almost got together right here. We had to climb the AC and give him a hard left turn to get him out of the way because that TBM was climbing right up at him. They got the closest they got. The targets merged, and there were 500 feet between them, and that was after we had taken action. But
So this is CRP, right?
Corpus is right here.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, this is Cabanus.
Oh, that's Cabanus.
That's Cabanus, right under the 3-1 final.
Do your controllers worry about traffic going into Navy Waldron, or is that strictly just under Navy
Oh yeah,
Corpus
no.
Towers?
We handle them all.
So close.
We handle them all. Let's see what I want to do here. I want to range this way. You see Waldron right here.
Okay.
That's Navy Waldron.
Okay.
And that's Cabanus. And yeah, we work them in and out. The Navy here has what they refer to as course rules, which is their VFR courses that they fly at certain altitudes. So if they want to go from Navy Corpus to Waldron, they have a certain way they have to get there and a certain altitude. They'll climb to 500 feet and fly for so far, and then they'll turn to a specific heading and get out along the shoreline. They'll climb along the shoreline, and then they'll come in. So they don't just go from here to there. If aircraft are transitioning from Corpus Christi to Navy and Navy to Corpus Christi, we'll request what we call a sunrise transition. And what that comes from is the old Sunrise Shopping Center. Okay? So what they're going to do is they're going to come off Corpus, they're going to fly very close to Cabanus, and then they're going to pick up SPID. They're going to fly down SPID till they get to Sunrise, and then from the Sunrise Shopping Center, they'll come into Navy.
Switch over to Navy.
Coming the other way, they'll do just the reverse, but one's at 500 and one's at 1,000. So, throughout this whole area, they've got their particular course rules. they'll call us, they'll ask for approval to fly course rules, and we'll either approve it or deny it based on traffic, of course. When they go in and out of their practice areas, which are all in the alert area, they have, they'll all go out to the shoreline, they'll fly a certain distance from the shoreline at a certain altitude, and then to a point, then they'll climb up. Now, if you're out overflying Mustang Island, be alert, because what they're all doing is coming out to the shoreline, they're descending, and they're all coming to a point here between two condominiums, and then coming into the bay
At 1,000 feet.
at 1,000 feet. Well, some of them are going to be 1,000, some are going to be, they have to cross this, if they're coming from the north, they got to cross this shoreline at 1,500 and then drop to 1,000 by the time they reach that particular VFR point that's in the bay out there. So,
Yeah, that's those little, it's called.
what's that?
Yeah, I was just thinking of what those are. Those La Mirage or no? The green condos or the blue house condos out there. Yeah, you guys have a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
a lot of things happening.
It's a busy area. It's
very busy.
It's more than meets the eye. I talk to people and they say, "Oh, you work out at the airport," and Corpus Christi Airport is if it were to be on its own, it would be probably a level 3 or 4. But because we have the radar combined, because we have the valley, it's a level 9 facility, and they only go to 12. I mean, Chicago Air's a 12, Atlanta's a 12. So we're 3 steps below that. San Antonio is a level 9, same as we are. The capital city is a level 9.
I think that's what all general aviation pilots need to be aware of. Hey, it might seem kind of slow here, but there's a huge volume of military aircraft training with student pilots.
Right, and that's why we have the alert areas, that are depicted on the charts.
632.
Information that we have up here, of course, we've got area maps. This one is just set up for running the Corpus Christi. That one's set up for running the valley, I believe, right now. This is an interactive display here. We can bring up any of this information. This one's, which is interesting. Is that set up for Corpus or does that say valley? No, that says valley. So the last program that the training program they ran in here was a valley program. But if I key on that, then it's going to bring up the whole valley menu, and I can look at whatever I want to look at in that area. If I come back, there's the Navy main menu, and then back to Corpus. If I want to look at the Corpus airport, then this is giving me the weather, giving me the ATIS, runway in use, the approach that's in use. This is the weather for Navy. If I need to look up an approach to remind myself of something, I can come up here and click on the approaches, and it's going to give me all the approaches. Say somebody wants to do that one into the GPS 1.3, then I can bring that up and get a quick reminder of what it is that they're going to do. It's not like the old days where you had 4 approaches to the airport and that was it. And back then you had to have every fix memorized, every crossing altitude, every frequency. I mean, it all had to be there. You had to, and here, since it is a lot more information, there are a lot more approaches available. So all this is at the fingertips, but bear in mind that when we're looking at this, we're not looking at this, and this is our primary focus.
Right.
The primary objective of air traffic is to prevent the collision of aircraft. So, number 1 priority. All right, should we go in there where they're doing it for real?
I got a question.
Yes.
How sensitive is the radar? Can you pick up like a PPG pilot that's flying on the beach?
Sometimes. I can pick up a parachute that's falling. As soon as he unfurls the chute, it'll pick it up.
PPG. Yeah, I fly PPG off the beach. Power paragliding?
Paraglider, yeah. That's a real small
The issue,
cross-section.
the reason that we're not going to see you is because this is still line of sight. So if there's anything between that radar out here by the tower and you, we're not gonna see it.
No, but we get high enough.
If you get high enough out there, yeah. Now we'll often, you know, the helicopters and the Coast Guard is out here flying at about 300 feet. We'll lose them right about here.
Yeah, because they're going
at 300 feet, just because, you know, of terrain. But at like at Packery, I never see them.
Yeah, that's where we fly out south. Back
Yeah, yeah, I never see any of them at Packery.
For the most part, we're low, but we get up there.
I'm out there seeing them when I'm fishing, but I'm not. But I'm not seeing them on the radar. No.
So don't ask for flight following.
No, not
He's
the
not
flight
gonna be able
following.
to see.
Well, I've been up there. I can see the airport. So
you
well,
can see. Yeah,
If you can see the airport, then there's a chance that the radar's going to pick you up. Our radar uses a composite of both, you know, of a number of different things. The old raw radar return. Okay, we get the beacon return from both our facility, from Houston Center's facility, from Navy Kingsville. I mean, they're all fed in to make a composite and give us a better picture of where you are. When we're in the TRACON, you're going to see the targets seem to be constantly moving. In the old days, it was once every 6 seconds. So your sweep would go around every 6 seconds, and every 6 seconds that signal would go out, hit the plane, come back, and tell you where it is. But right now, it's constant.
In effect, real time position.
The other thing that we get is the ADSB. The new system, the ADSB, is also now incorporated in. So now we can turn that on or off depending on, you know, how much clutter or whatnot that we have. But and the other thing is that you can see the windmills, because there's enough of a return coming off those blades. The raw radar is mitigated to detect motion. So, you know, most things it won't pick up. But when I was living out west in the mountains, it would pick up the highway when the highway got busy, because the vehicles are moving.
Yeah,
so you could always see, you know, at rush hour, you know, you could see the cars on the mountain.
Oh wow!
But
yeah, that's unwanted.
So even though it's motion, you know, it's mitigated to only, you know, reflect off motion, the windmills are spinning. So that's enough motion. You know, you'll see in there. I'll point them out to you. Okay. All right. Now it's no more picture time.
That's next room.